Alrighty, folks. One of our many doomer and crash bros put out a statistic yesterday that is both factually correct, but also complete crap. What is that statistic? Well, it is factually correct to say that homeowners underwater spiked 62%. Now, of course, without any context, you really have no idea what that means. Well, the reality is homeowners underwater went from 1.3% to 2.1%. So on an actual increase, it was up 0.8%. But when you take 0.8% and compare it to the base of 1.3, you can factually say that homeowners underwater increased by 62%. But here is the reality. What is the one fact they will never, ever tell you? The long run historical average of homeowners underwater is about 2.5%. So while, again, it is factually correct to say we're up 62%, it is unconscionable that they don't follow through and say the long run 50-year average is 2.5%. Yes, folks, there are always people underwater. Do you guys not know that some people get 100% mortgages? Do you not know that some folks have low down payments? All of these things. So again, homeowners underwater is long-term average is right between 2.5% and 2.6%. We are not even close to the long-term average. In fact, you could also say we are 30%. Now it's probably more like 25% away from the long-run historical average. You have to be very, very careful, folks, when these doomers and crash bros say percentages, because when you take little changes on little numbers, you get big, big numbers. And that is how they trick you. That is how they scare you. Please stop drinking poison. They are just poisoning your mind with, I suppose, factually correct but irrelevant information. Don't know if you guys saw what was going on in Mexico yesterday, but it looks like a cartel lead was taken out and they were not happy, causing airlines to halt flights to Puerto Vallarta over violence. I do not recall something like that happening before. They've done it certainly for volcanoes and other reasons, but I do not remember, international airlines saying, nope, we are not flying to that city, at least for a little while. That will certainly impact tourism, most short and long term, and we'll see what happens to the airlines, how long this happens. Also, it'll be interesting, in 90 days or so to look at travel to Mexico in general. While this eruption happened in one location, I wonder if Mexico would be painted with a broad brush and tourism will collapse. That is a real concern for a country that does rely on tourism. It looks like President Trump is continuing his chaotic use of tariffs. Seemingly every day there is a new headline. Well, it looks like the rest of the world, frankly, has had enough. Europe now is threatening previous trade deals. And again, the Stella America trade seems to be picking up force as countries find ways to diversify away from U.S. assets. This will have both short and long-term ramifications that you and I must be paying attention to. Got some interesting insight into the BLS. As you know, I've been harping on the Bureau of Labor and Statistics crappy numbers for probably a year now, maybe even 18 months. Well, it appears that I'm going to call it their legacy survey system, right, where they send out and ask for respondents, is down to 64%. So only 64% of people they reach out to respond. That is down 30% since 2009. Thus, with missing data, the BLS is left to interpret and give variables and basically produce complete crap because the old model is not working. Again, BLS, I've said this before, my hope is the new, or Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, the new Fed chair once put in, really takes a machete to the old way of collecting survey data. We live in a world of AI, of endless access to information. The fact that you're still relying on phone calls is stupid. It's Let's do it a different way. You can do more than that. We did get some Fed speak this morning from Fed President Christopher Waller. He had several things to say. First time in my career, the economy is growing well, but job growth is zero. Job growth is zero. So again, what he is saying is GDP is expanding, but we're not adding jobs. That is a problem. Number two, AI is diffusing so fast that it is easy to predict what jobs might go away, but it is hard to highlight what jobs will be created. This is a lot of what I'm seeing out there. In fact, Dana Dunford, CEO of Hemlane, and I had a conversation that published over the weekend. And it definitely seems like it's easy today to say what jobs will disappear. It's hard to say what jobs will be created. I am certainly still in the camp that this will be a net positive. I'm not sure it will be a net positive in the short term. I think you'll have to look back at a couple of years in total to see the positive impact of AI and job creation, brand new jobs, but we shall see. Firms are starting to shed workers after they overhired. I do think this is something that has really been going on for the last year or so. People overhired, they held on the workers because it was so hard to find them, and now companies are shedding those employees. We have had a bunch of folks join school. Again, folks, you got to join school. You're going to get the 2-day ORaaT session from Vegas. You're going to get, I think, 12 or 13 podcasts, including the showdown between Brian and Dion, round 1 and round 2. Round 2 is the spicy one. But I want to thank Devin, Sean, Sam, Ryan, Kara, and Jacqueline, all for joining school in the last 24 hours. Make sure you introduce yourself, find the accountability groups, get the free education. It is all there for you. Redfin had a very interesting report saying last week pending home sales fell 5.8% year on year. This is interesting data because, again, remember, folks, yesterday I admitted I was wrong. August is not the bottom. It looks like, at least based on Redfin's report, it is getting even worse, which is interesting. Again, something to pay attention to. Mark Zandi is voicing his concern once again about the stock market, basically saying investors seem to be investing on speculation that prices will rise because they rose before. I think what Mark is pointing at is the buy the dippers are still out there. I'm just curious who still has money to buy the dips, as we've seen some pretty big haircuts in the Mag 7 and others. Building permits continue to fall. Building permits last week were down 3.6%, lowest since 2019. Again, if you were hoping for a rebound in the housing sector, you are not going to get it from new construction. We are now down 19% or 350,000 units from the peak. This was an interesting report. We obviously, if you think about the pandemic, early parts of the pandemic, what happened to two cities, San Francisco and Austin? San Francisco obviously cratered. Remember, rents fell, population this, population that. It really became a complete, almost zombie apocalypse, where Austin was on the other side. People were moving to Austin, rents were exploding. But if you step back and now look at the chart, San Francisco and Austin are right back to where they started. Yes, Austin's peaked and has now come down substantially. San Francisco crashed, but now thanks to AI, it is coming back. And it's really interesting to see the charts kind of diverge and come back together. Lastly, we got a couple more Fed speak, and then we will call it a day. Fed President Bostic says neutral is 1/4 to 1/2 point lower. He means that they could cut 1 to 2 times to get to neutral. Fed President Moran says goods inflation is stubborn, and the employment market held up better. And finally, Fed President Kashkari, AI could boost productivity for the next 5 to 8 years. Yes, AI is going to be with us for quite some time. All right, folks, I hope you have an amazing day. Remember, you can join our school community. It is right there on the screen, school.com/ORaaT. You can get the 2-day event, which included amazing presentations from our family, Jared, Brandon, Ryan, and Keisha. Also had some heavy hitters like Jason Hartman, Pace Morby, and Rob Abasola, and many, many more. So go check it out. And lastly, if you haven't, check out the presentation from Andrea, who was a doctor from Venezuela who had to flee and ultimately came to the U.S. to be a pizza delivery person at one point in her life. So quite the change, quite the story. If you watch Andrea's presentation, all I have to say is you have no reason to complain ever again. All right, folks, take care of yourself. That's the daily financial news. We will be back tomorrow, 7:30 a.m. live. I hope you have a great day. Don't forget to check out Steadily. They are Landlord Insurance, a company that saved Olivia and I over 20 grand in the last 12 months. Peace.